In the quiet town of Greenville, nestled between rolling hills and endless skies, there lived a boy named Oliver. Unlike other children his age, who filled their days with games and laughter, Oliver possessed a peculiar gift. He could see the future. His visions were fragmented, often triggered by the most ordinary of moments. A brief flicker of something yet to come, a glimpse of a rainy afternoon, or the outcome of his mother's garden project, would occasionally flash before him, leaving him with a feeling of odd certainty. Most of the time, these visions were mundane, easy to ignore or laugh off. But Oliver's gift wasn't as harmless as it seemed. One afternoon, while sitting in his backyard with a book, Oliver felt a shift in the air. The warm, sunlit atmosphere around him grew thick, and a deep humming filled his ears, seeming to come from within him. He blinked, and suddenly, he was no longer in his backyard, but standing in the heart of a city he didn't recognize. The sky above him was dark, filled with swirling clouds that pulsed as if they were alive. He could feel the ground shaking underfoot as the buildings around him cracked and crumbled, their facades collapsing in slow motion. People were running in every direction, their faces twisted in fear. Their cries were muted, as though he were hearing them through a wall of thick glass. In the center of it all stood a strange device, glowing with an eerie, pulsating light. The machine was like nothing Oliver had ever seen, with strange panels and rotating gears, emitting a low, ominous hum. As he stared at it, he could feel a powerful energy radiating from its core, distorting the air around it. Just as suddenly as it began, the vision faded, and Oliver found himself back in his backyard. The warm sunlight now a harsh contrast to the dark, apocalyptic scene he'd just witnessed. His hands trembled, and his heart raced as he struggled to process what he had seen. This vision was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was vivid, real, and above all terrifying. Something told him that this was no ordinary premonition. It wasn't a glimpse of an inconsequential event, it was a warning. Over the following days, Oliver became increasingly troubled. He couldn't shake the feeling that his vision was a glimpse into a grim future, a future that was somehow connected to him. He couldn't bear to share it with his parents. They had always brushed off his gift as harmless, a quirky talent that would fade as he grew older. But this was different. He couldn't explain it, yet he knew deep down that the vision had been a call to action, one that only he could understand. As days passed, he grew more withdrawn, his thoughts consumed by the images of that devastated city and the strange machine at its heart. He spent hours in his garage, tinkering with small devices, hoping to find a distraction. His dimensional phone, a project he'd been working on for months, was just one of the many inventions he poured his energy into. Though he didn't fully believe it would work, he had been fascinated by the idea of contacting other dimensions, a curiosity that now felt oddly fitting. Then, late one night, as he sat in his garage surrounded by the hum of his equipment, he heard a sound. It was faint at first, almost like a whisper, blending with the hum of his gadgets. But as he listened, it grew louder, more insistent. The sound filled the garage, vibrating in the air around him. And then he heard a voice that was both strange and strangely familiar. "Oliver, I need your help." Oliver's heart skipped a beat. The voice was calm but urgent, each word laden with an unmistakable sense of desperation. He looked around, trying to locate the source of the voice, but saw nothing. Who are you?" he managed to stammer, his voice barely audible. The voice echoed again, resonating with an eerie clarity. "I'm you, but from another dimension. My name is Omari. I've created a device, a machine meant to harness energy from parallel dimensions. But something has gone terribly wrong. The machine is out of control, and the energy it's releasing is creating rifts between our worlds. If we don't stop it, both of our dimensions could collapse." Oliver's heart pounded as he listened to Omari's words. Memories of his vision flooded back, the city in ruins, the frightened faces, the strange machine glowing ominously in the distance. Omari's invention, this device he'd built with the best of intentions, was the very source of the destruction Oliver had seen. Swallowing his fear, Oliver took a deep breath. "What can I do?" he asked, his voice trembling but resolute. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, but he felt an inexplicable connection to Omari, a bond that transcended time, space, even reality. "I need you to complete your project," Omari replied. "The dimensional phone you've been working on, it's our only hope. I'll guide you through the modifications. If we can strengthen the device, we might be able to use it to stabilize the rifts and stop the machine. But we don't have much time. Each moment that passes, the rifts grow wider, the energy more unstable." Oliver hesitated for a moment, overwhelmed by the enormity of the task. But something in Omari's voice, something strong, reassuring, gave him the courage to continue. He gathered his tools, adjusting the settings of the phone, and followed Omari's instructions with a focus he had never felt before. Hours blurred into days as Oliver poured all his energy into perfecting the device. He barely slept, barely ate, consumed by the mission that lay before him. Each step of the process was a delicate balance between skill and intuition. Omari guided him through complex equations and intricate calibrations, steps that would have baffled even the most brilliant scientists. And yet, somehow Oliver understood. He felt as if he were tapping into a deeper knowledge, a shared intuition between himself and his counterpart from another dimension. The device took shape under his hands. The modified phone began to emit a faint, pulsating light, a glow that felt both familiar and alien. The air around it crackled with an energy that made the hair on Oliver's arms stand on end. He could feel the power emanating from it, a tangible force that pulsed with each heartbeat. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Late one night, Oliver stood in his garage, the modified phone vibrating in his hand. His heart pounded as he prepared himself for what lay ahead. Taking a deep breath, he activated the device, and a swirling portal flickered into existence before him. Colors and shapes twisted within it, shifting and merging in patterns he couldn't comprehend. "Are you ready?" he whispered, more to himself than to Omari. "Yes," Omari replied, his voice filled with determination. "Remember, the rifts are unstable. We have to move quickly." Without another word, Oliver stepped into the portal. The sensation was overwhelming. He felt himself being pulled in every direction, as though he were caught in a storm of light and color. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he thought he might lose himself in the swirling chaos. But then, just as quickly as it had begun, the sensation ceased, and he found himself standing on solid ground. He blinked, adjusting to his surroundings. The world he had entered was a distorted mirror of his own. The sky above him was dark and tumultuous, the clouds swirling like angry shadows. The ground trembled beneath his feet, and in the distance, he could see the machine from his vision, its ghostly glow casting an eerie light over everything. Oliver spotted Omari immediately. He was hunched over the control panel of the machine, his face etched with desperation. When he saw Oliver, his expression softened with relief. "You made it," he said, motioning for Oliver to join him. "We don't have much time." Oliver hurried to Omari's side, his heart pounding as he took in the machine up close. It was more imposing than he had imagined, its towering structure humming with a dangerous energy. The rifts surrounded it, swirling masses of chaotic light that crackled in the air, their presence a constant reminder of the fragile state of their reality. "How do we stop it?" Oliver asked, his voice barely audible over the roar of the machine. "We need to reverse the energy flow," Omari replied, his voice tense but calm. "But it won't be easy. The machine is resisting. It's almost as if it has a mind of its own." Together, they began to recalibrate the controls, adjusting the settings in a desperate attempt to stabilize the machine. Each adjustment was met with resistance, the machine shaking violently as if fighting against them. Oliver's hands trembled as he worked, his mind racing with fear and determination. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed through the air, sending a shockwave that threw them both backward. Oliver hit the ground hard, his vision spinning as he struggled to regain his bearings. Dazed, he looked around, his heart sinking as he saw that the rifts had grown larger, their chaotic energy spiraling out of control. Omari pulled himself to his feet, his face pale but determined. "We can't give up now," he said, extending a hand to help Oliver up. We're so close. Drawing on a fragment of his vision, Oliver remembered something. A moment where he had seen the machine stabilize, a faint hope amidst the destruction. He realized that there was a pattern to the energy, a rhythm that pulsed in sync with the machine. "Omari," he shouted over the noise. "If we redirect the energy to the rifts, we might be able to close them." Omari's eyes lit up with understanding. "You're right," he exclaimed, turning back to the control panel. Together, they adjusted the settings, channeling the machine's energy toward the rifts. The air crackled as the energy shifted, the rifts beginning to shrink, their chaotic edges smoothing as the energy stabilized. With one final adjustment, they unleashed a powerful wave that sealed the last of the rifts with a brilliant flash. The machine fell silent, its ominous hum fading into the stillness of the night. They stood together in the silence, the weight of their accomplishment settling over them. The world around them was quiet, the once chaotic energy now a calm, steady pulse. Omari turned to Oliver, a weary smile on his face. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You were the key to saving us all." As the world began to blur, Oliver felt himself being pulled back through the portal. Moments later, he found himself standing in his garage once more, the familiar surroundings a stark contrast to the alien world he had just left. He looked down at the phone in his hand, its glow now dim and quiet. A sense of peace washed over him, a newfound understanding of the gift he had been given. Though he was only a young boy, he had faced a challenge beyond his imagination and emerged victorious. In the days that followed, Oliver returned to his normal life. But he carried with him a quiet confidence, a sense of purpose that set him apart. He knew that he was capable of extraordinary things, and that, no matter what the future held, he was ready to face it head on.